We continue on through the meeting. We just ask you to be with us through this day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Roll call, Shelley.
Joe Bird,
Honey.
David Walkenstick.
Honey.
Jack Baker. Harley Guzzard.
Here.
Juliet Coates. Jody Fishinghawk.
Here.
Janelle Fulbright.
Present.
John Garvin. Frankie Hargis.
Present.
Hannah Glory Jordan.
Present.
Lee Keener. Dick Lay.
Here.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
Denise Taylor.
Here.
David Thornton. Kara Callan Watts. We do have a quorum.
Now for the, yes, Counselor.
Mr. Chair, I would like to amend the agenda to discuss and possibly action on the Cherokee Nation Motor Vehicle Licensing and Tax Code Modification of 2013.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, ayes have it. Thank you there, Counselor. Yes, Counselor Walkenstick.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda as well under the new business. No, sorry, I rescind that motion. I rescind that. But I do have an announcement I need to make public. The Education and Culture Committee to be moved at 3 p.m. Is everyone fine with that? I was told I need to make that public announcement before it's official. Education and Culture at 3 p.m. Is that fine with everybody?
You would mean on its regular day, you want it at 3 p.m.?
Yes, instead of noon,
Instead of
moving it to 3.
noon.
Is everyone okay with that?
That's the wish of the chair. Okay, I have no problem.
All right, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Yes, Speaker.
I have been asked to amend the agenda to move up number 1 under new business to the very first thing. Our nominee is here and I believe has another engagement.
Okay. You make that a motion. Second.
Second.
Second. Discussion. Okay. All in favor of moving the item number 1 in new business to the front signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. So you want that moved in front of old business?
Yes.
Okay.
And in front of reports.
Okay. Okay, so we have the motions to amend the agenda. So at this time, we would take that resolution on. Let's back up a little bit here. We have 2 sets of minutes we need to approve here. We have the August 12, 2013 and August 29, 2013. We'll do those both.
Second.
We got a motion and second. Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved. Okay, reports. So since we amended the agenda, we will take on new business. Item number 1 being moved up, the appointment and confirming Roberta Gibson as a board member of the Cherokee Nation Sequoia High School Board of Education. Is Roberta here?
Hello, I'm Roberta. OCO.
Councilor Walkenstick, did you make that motion?
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion to confirm Roberta Gibson as board member of Cherokee Nation Sequoia High School Board of Education.
Okay, second by Speaker Jordan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any comments?
No, not unless you have a comment. I do have a comment.
Okay.
I want you to know that Sequoia is in real good hands. That Leroy, he really works hard. I go to a lot of the games and a lot of the activities. I've even judged during the science fair. But he's always where the parents are, where the students are. You don't really ever see him sit down just to really enjoy the game because he's busy. They're talking to him. And I really like that. You know, he's a person that will go around and walk around, and he has a real good staff. Rose is just a nice young lady. She works hard every day. She implements the curriculum the way it's supposed to be. They hire teachers that have certification. So I am real pleased. And also, is his name Marcus, the athletic director? He's out walking around too. I look at this group of administrators that are there to really help the children, to really meet their needs, and they're there for a purpose. It's not just a job for them, and that's why I have really enjoyed being on the school board. I just want you to know that.
Well,
Is that it?
we commend you for taking on that sacrifice and being on the board, Ms. Gibson. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Okay, moving down to reports. You have those in front of you. We have Marshal Service Shannon Buell. Is he available?
Marshall Buell's on travel. I'm Scott Craig. I'm one of his captains. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Any questions for Mr. Craig? Councilor Fishenhoff?
Could you ask Shannon to get me a list before next ENF meeting of, or list or a spreadsheet would be better, of the cost that we incurred over the Baby Vita case, please? The Marshal Service did.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Craig.
Uh-huh.
Office of the Attorney General, Mr. Todd Hembry, or his designee.
I'll be the designee today.
Okay.
I don't believe that you have a report from the AG's office. If there's any questions about litigation, I don't think in some ways we maybe need a report. A lot of what's been going on in our office has been reported for us by the media and by a lot of sources. But if there are any questions, I'll do the very best that I can to answer them.
Okay. Councilor Hargis?
Yes, did you have a meeting with the state over the tobacco compact yesterday?
We had a meeting with state officials yesterday over the tobacco compact. It was not with the governor's office, but with other state officials. We're still trying to work out some of the details of the proposed compact, but we're in very active negotiations over tobacco right now.
Councilor Buzzer?
So when is the deadline on having the compact completed?
The deadline was originally going to be at the end of this month. We're going to have an extension until the end of next month. So we received an extension. It just needs to be signed by the chief and by the governor, but we've received the paperwork from from the governor's attorney. So we anticipate having that signed shortly.
And to follow up, I'm sure you've reviewed the compact with the Oliver tribe,
We've reviewed all the compacts that have been signed.
so you have
We have.
reviewed that
Yes,
particular one?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? So you see that this negotiation was favorable to the tribe?
Yeah, I think we're making good progress.
Okay. Councilor Fishenhoff?
I want to commend you all on that. I got a call from their lobbyist and one of their head lawyers, and he said y'all's pretty much within 5% of the goal they was wanting.
Well, we're working as hard as we can, and we've worked with the smoke shop owners on the tobacco issue, and it's something that our office has been pulled in a lot of directions of late, but we've certainly not lost focus on how important this is to our people. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you want to take on the codification as well?
I can take on the codification. We've received titles 1 through 20 from West, and those are going to have to be reviewed by the attorneys in our office. We've not had an opportunity to do that yet, but if it's a priority that we get those turned around. I don't have a solid date for you right now as to when we'll have that complete, but we continue to answer questions from West when we receive them, and we are working on it.
Okay, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Election Commission? Mr. Bill Horton?
It's me. I'm here. About all I can report is everything's on target for the special election we got coming up in District 11. Everything's going good. We're at the office right now, a bunch of the girls, they're stuffing envelopes, getting ready to get them out in the mail as of probably Saturday or Friday. And everything's looking good for the special election.
Comments, questions? Counselor Lay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Horton, how are you today?
I'm fine.
Good. I had some comments, as you know, for some folks that used to be my constituents just a couple of months ago from the South Coffeyville, Lanapau area.
Redistricting.
And so apparently they sent in some absentee ballot requests. And they didn't put their CO number. And it is in the law that says they should, as well as sign it, and I think there's about 4 things.
Right.
And their comment to me was that they never done it before. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm just asking you. Previously, in previous elections, had they always had to put their CO number down? Or did y'all look that up for them? That's just a question.
As you know, we're all a new commission.
Yes, sir.
And what they've done in the past is, I don't know exactly what all they've done in the past, but I'm going to let our attorney answer that portion of it, Mr. Lay. It is the law, the council passed the law, and the law states that they will have their name, their birthday, their CO number, their mailing address, and all that. And if we're going to follow the law, which y'all made, then we're going to have to follow the law. If we're not going to follow the law, then we need to change it. We all need to change it. And you're going to change it in the Constitution.
So you were there during the previous election, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. Did that happen then, or do you know? Can you remember?
I'd have to ask the girls, because I don't know anything about a computer. I wouldn't know how to do anything on one if you had to. I'm not.
Well, I appreciate your service. I've told you guys before that it'd take a cattle prod, and you still couldn't get me to take your job, so I appreciate it. And I don't need to hear from a lawyer. I know what he's going to say.
You don't need to hear from
He
her.
he can keep his seat.
But that's what,
Thanks.
if we're going to do it right, let's do it right. And I had a bunch of comments on the last election. They said, you've done a good job, da-da-da-da, the commission's done a good job. Well, we tried, and we wanted to, and we're wanting to. But 95% of the people that gets a absentee ballot usually is because of a candidate or his workers get out and get these people to get their people out to get the absentees out. All right. This person that works to get these absentees out and the candidate, they ought to be smart enough to know that they can read this and say you've got to have your CO number on this form. I mean, that's one of the requirements. That's what y'all required of us to do.
Counselor Buzzer, did you have a question?
On request of absentee ballots generally, it says, a registered voter of the Cherokee Nation who is unable to vote in person in his or her precinct may request an absentee ballot from the Election Commission. The request shall be in writing, preferably on a form prescribed by the Election Commission, and shall contain the following information: name, date of birth, address, Cherokee Nation membership registration number, and signature. Now, I know when we got into the other deal about some of the signatures on the absentee ballots, they said that we weren't handwriting experts. But in here it says their signature, so we can compare it to what their signature looks like when they signed up to vote. And so all we're trying to do is go by the law, which was made by the council. That's what the council says it wants on that.
Follow up, sir.
Go ahead.
And I appreciate, and that is true. And one thing, though, during the last election that we found out was a lot of absentee ballots were mailed to those who requested them without a ballot in them.
That was,
And it was a big scurry, as you know, because you guys had to do it to try to get them back a ballot.
right.
So that
We overnighted
election
it.
did not go as smoothly as one sometimes is led to believe.
Well, that wasn't the commission's fault. That was the provider that we had.
I
When they were
understand
stuffing
that.
the envelopes, they just didn't get all of the stack in there, and they left one out.
I
And that's
understand
when we
that.
had to overnight 21 of them, to make sure that they got their ballot.
Did they all get their ballot
They all got
back?
their ballot.
Those that called in got their ballot back. Those that did not call in probably said to heck with it.
No, if they didn't call in, we don't know.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Good. Counselor Buzzard?
Mr. Horton, I had a question. I want to make sure I'm clear, because I hadn't read this. Now, I have gone out and registered people or got them to re-register because they were updating their addresses. And some of them didn't have their blue card to put the COO number on it. Does this pertain to that too, or is this a different?
Well,
What are we going to do with those? That's what my question is. Are we going to go ahead and accept those or not?
you talking about on absentees?
No, just to register to vote. Now, a long sheet.
Well, if they fill out the registration, they can go to the office and they can look up their CO number for them on
Well,
registration.
these are people that lives in Uchi or Kenwood. They don't have a way down here. And
Well, see, actually, it's against law.
I've registered some people and they didn't have their COO number, and I've sent them in. So what's going to happen to those people that I've tried to register?
The girls will probably look those up.
Okay, well, that's what I want to know.
They will probably look those up. But when we're right here in the middle of trying to get an election going and we've got to go in there and look up CO numbers for these people that send in these ballots, there's got to be a responsibility taken by the voter.
Well, I just want this clarified.
To make sure they've got their card number. Most people don't worry about an election until it comes up, day before, or 2 days before. They don't think about it when it's time to pick the garden or anything like that. It's just when it comes up to an election. But these people, if they've lost their card, they need to get them another card, so they'll have their CO number.
Well, I just want some clarification on the one that we sent in to get them to register.
Yeah, they will be.
To make sure. Okay, thank you.
You good? You good? Okay, Counselor Coates?
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Horton, I understand that there have been something like over 300 absentee ballot requests that have been brought in recently by one of the candidates for the District 11 election. Do you have, or any of the workers from the office, is there any sense of how many of those do not have the CO number on them as a proportion? What number of those might not be accepted?
I don't know the exact number on it, Julia, but I think it was somewhere around 140? Yeah. 116 is what they said.
So it's approximately, I don't know, just off the top of my head, about 40% of what I understand was recently brought in are not going to be accepted. Would that be a pretty accurate percentage? You may not be able to answer that immediately, but if that's correct, that 300 were brought in and 116 are not going to be accepted, that's a pretty significant number.
About a third.
It seems to me.
Third.
Be about a third.
Yeah, well, it's more than that, yeah. It's
34%.
It's a little bit more than that, yeah. You're correct in what the law states, and it's perfectly reasonable that a CO number has to be on it. The law, however, does not state who places that number on there. And I know that in the past, the workers in the Election Services Office have been very willing and agreeable to do that because they have to look it up anyway, to verify certain things about the registration and the request. And this is, I've gone through the 2007 election, a couple of elections in 2011, this one, and every time when we've gone out to at-large community meetings, as Councilor Buzzard says, people don't necessarily carry their blue card around in their wallet, and they don't know what the numbers are. And we've always told them that's okay. The people in the Election Services Office will fill that in. And over and over and over, they've done that because people have been registered to vote. They have gotten their absentee ballots in the mail. And so although, yes, the law requires that, we've always understood that it was perfectly acceptable for the Election Service Office workers to place that number on the form. So I still have a real problem with this. I think this is a very arbitrary sort of reinterpretation of the practice that has been engaged in for years and years. And I understand that this is a new election commission, with the exception of one of your members who has been there all along. And I just think this is a real chill on the ability of Cherokee voters to participate in a process that we consider to be very, very fundamental to the democratic functioning of this government. And I would really, really encourage the Election Commission to reconsider this immediately, because it seems to be done after the fact of the date having already passed for those absentee ballot requests to be turned in, and things being done differently than what many of us remember having been done in the past, and what we have plenty of evidence of the way it had been done in the past. So that's my comment and my encouragement to you and the commission. But thank you very much for all of the work that you do. But I hope that we can open up to more people being able to vote when we know that they legitimately are citizens of this government and deserve to be able to vote. Thank you.
Councilor Thornton.
Mr. Horn,
Yes.
thank you for your service. Thank you for sticking with the Election Commission. I appreciate that very much. During my last election, when we filled out absentees or filled out for new voters and brought them in, the only ones that they would look up at that time for me, and I don't know about anybody else, are numbers that you couldn't really read it on that card right. They may put down 3 or 4 numbers and some of them be wrong. And so that's the ones that was looked up for me. I don't know about anybody else. But if it was blank, those people did not receive an absentee. Because I've got the voters list and I realized that they didn't receive one.
Well, you can't give out the CO numbers over the phone. If you did, if you give those CO numbers out over the phone, who do you know who you're talking to? How do you know that you're talking to Mary Smith? You know, that could be somebody, you know, that's out working for some candidate and they're just out getting absentees and they say, oh, well, we'll just call you in and I'll get your CO number. Well, that's not right. And it says it's not right. You're not supposed to do that. So what do people want us to do? Does the council do they want us to do it right, or do they want us to break the law and do it for them, which it states that you're not supposed to? And right now we're in a process. The girls are working their heads off trying to get ready for this election, October the 12th, and we're going to take one person to take out all that just to look up somebody's CO number, just over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
Well, it really wasn't the Election Commission's fault. It was registration's fault on the blue cards that I saw.
But
they didn't have their numbers down. You know, they were run together or something. You couldn't tell what their number was.
I've got 2 or 3 letters, you know, said their mother was sick, she couldn't get out of bed and stuff like that, and she's lost her card, you know. And I understand things like that happen, but, you know, that's kind of like I was in education for years, you know, and they come in, they say, the dog ate my homework.
Yeah, you have a good reputation.
What do you do, you know? You give the dog a grade or what? So, you know, there's a responsibility going to have to come up, and the voters are going to have to realize this. They're going to have to keep up with their blue card, keep up with their CO number, and if they want to vote absentee ballot.
Now, are we just talking about absentees here? Can we bring up everything else?
Well, you probably can.
Okay. Well, don't be putting on me.
Yeah, right now we're going, well, we went over absentee, we went over registration, so you got the floor.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I wish you all would look down in my district again and see if you can't move the precinct on the west end, because it's up there.
You talking about up there at the firehouse?
Up Paradise Hill? Yeah, and see if you can't get a better location centrally for those people, whether it has to be at Gore or we have to put 2 in there. But well, if you'd look at that, it'd be great. Well, if you don't, well, then I can start working on it.
Me and Martha, she's back here, we looked at it, and I got you know, Paradise Hill is pretty handy for Braggs and for up around Tin Keller and up in there, you know, and Paradise Hill. But probably, we'll probably look at it. We may add one more precinct and put it in Gore and leave the one in Paradise Hill.
That'd be good.
That sounds good.
Because, I mean, that's a long ways from the drive, you know, from River
Yeah.
Falls over to, up to Paradise Hill. It's closer to go to Vian.
Yeah. Sure is. Thank you.
Good. Counselor Watts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing, Bill?
I'm doing fine.
It's good to see you today. I think that your position should have probably come with a warning label, shouldn't they have?
Well, Miss Fulbright told me there wasn't anything to it. I called her the other day. I called her the other day. I said,
Are you
"Janelle,"
still speaking with her?
I said, "Janelle, you know what?" She said, "What?" I said, "You lie." She said, "What do you mean?" You said there wasn't anything to it.
Well, she's an elected
said-
official, right?
She said, well, and I said, she said, "Well, I didn't know about this all this redistricting going to hit you right in the face, you know." So that was a pretty good lick right there.
Well, I think I'm one of those letters you've received, so
I read it.
I think that you probably know how I feel about it, and I think I've thought about it more, and I guess at the end of the day, if I'm trying to explain it to the voters or constituents, my heartburn is not with the implementation of the law, but that it's not consistent, that if we're going to do it, because in contrary to what the other councilman had said, in the past, absentee ballots were looked up, request numbers were looked up for us, so that we thought that's the common practice. So, and that's the common practice too, as well for the voter registration forms, because the reality is, like I've heard from other folks, I don't even know if I'm carrying my card and I couldn't tell you my number. So it's that it's not consistent and it's after the fact, that it was after the deadline closed that we changed the practice. I'm not going to argue that the law, the letter of the law doesn't say that, but that it was afterwards, and this is affecting more than 116 voters, I think. Is that correct?
Something like that, 116.
So if we're going to implement, we need to implement it for everything, and we need to implement it maybe in another election,
Well,
is where I'm at.
I think
with
your
it.
letter stated that like changing horses in the middle of the stream, or
Yeah, because I'm concerned about, it's
So-
not 90 days before an election.
so,
it's
yeah, and all
after a
that, but
deadline, and
where are you going to change? I mean, where is the cutoff point? Where are we going to stop? I mean, if it's the next election, say, well, you done it the last time, so do it this time.
No, I
And, you
think
know,
if
it's going to,
we
it's
have
just
an
going to be a
opportunity to
continuous
communicate.
thing. It's just going to fester and get bigger, and nobody's going to be satisfied. So we're either going to have to stop it somewhere or just let it go. And you want us to break the law? But the law says that y'all implemented it, y'all put it in the law. And if you're going to change it, you've got to change the Constitution. When you change the Constitution, you can change the law.
I'm not saying that we don't have things to clean up on our side of the house. I don't disagree.
But do you want us to go with the law? If we don't go with the law, you sue us. If we go with the law, you sue
Well,
us.
I think we've definitely put this whole election in a quandary now, because either anyone can sue saying that they were not represented and they were disenfranchised from their vote now. Because it was after the deadline that people were informed that their CO number had to be on there and wouldn't be looked up by the staff, has been the prior practice. And I know that I'm a young one that has only been involved in Cherokee elections since 2003. But everything I recall from those elections I participated in as a candidate since 2003 is that they would look up those numbers. So I understand we have to draw a sand in the line, and we have to make sure that things are done appropriately, but doing so after the fact of the deadline and in the middle of an election puts 116 Cherokee voters potentially not being able to vote, and that's disheartening. And there's some of them that could probably drive to Tahlequah or maybe even go vote that day, but I'm worried about the one person that lives out of state that just can't. There's no way they could, and we've effectively, I think it was Councilwoman Coates said it would chill the process, and it's done that.
Well, you got to remember one thing. I am the chairman of the commission, and I can't go tell the people that voted for this to say, I want you to change your vote. I don't think that is really the way things operate, you know. I mean, they wouldn't change their vote anyway if I asked them to. If there's 3 of them voted for it.
Well, I mean,
I don't vote because they say I'm only supposed to vote if there's a tie. because we got a 5-man board.
So if it's after the fact, there wasn't even an opportunity for people to provide their CO numbers if they could go look them up and give them a window of opportunity. It's just, it's after the deadline, there's a decision made, and they're immediately disallowed from voting absentee, even though they made the effort of putting a request in. So if there had been maybe, phone calls asking, what is your CO number? Can you provide that within 48 hours or something? But there wasn't even that opportunity, and so now we've effectively potentially cut 116 or so people out of being able to vote.
Well, I don't think we've cut that many out of being able to vote. They can still go to the precinct to vote. A lot of the people that vote absentee just don't want to go to the precinct, and they can go to the precinct and vote if they want to vote. There may be a handful that may be bedridden or something, can't do it, but we're going to have to do it somewhere. We're going to have to bite the bullet. We're going to have to do it, and we bit the bullet, and we're doing it, and we're following the law.
I guess, why was the decision made the day after the deadline and not when we started this process or even for later elections?
That's when it come up on the agenda to.
Because I looked at the agenda and I didn't remember seeing it. I wasn't aware that it was going to be on the agenda. So I guess who came forward with this idea that suddenly practice was not following law?
Some of the council members brought that.
Oh, tribal council members.
No, I mean, commission members.
Okay.
And it brought it to my attention, and I looked at it, and I said, well, the law states this.
So are we going to change practice as well on voter registration, and people will be
I don't know, I
rejected?
think the registration part, I mean, the registration, all you gotta do is come into the office and give your name, and they'll look it up, the CO number for you. You're gonna come in the office and do it. But as far as taking one person off the workforce and just sitting down and saying, this is what you're gonna do, and we got all this other stuff to get out in the special election. The special election is short notice for us too.
So they don't have to look those up and confirm them regardless? Because I thought that was part of the process.
Yeah, they confirm.
So they're already doing that work once an application's submitted?
But there's still a part the voter needs to comply with. That's what the law states. That's how they voted on it, according to the law. And I know that it don't make any difference what you do, there's gonna be something that's not gonna work, Somebody's gonna always have an excuse, well, this happened, this happened, this happened. I've heard them all.
So we're just going to, I guess, have to agree to disagree on this issue, but I do have another one. I have concerns, I guess, the non-Indian emergency hire, is it true that they've been hired in at $60,000 a year?
I haven't discussed any, I don't know about the salary, no, I don't know.
So if I went and FOIA'd HR, I couldn't find that amount yet, or are they on the books? Because they're doing the election, right?
Yeah, she's
They're in the
working on
office,
that.
and they're already hired? That's a considerable amount of money for an emergency outside of the tarot process and not having opened it up for Cherokees.
What you're talking about here is the lady that they voted to hire, worked with us through the election. She's worked through the elections here in California, several other counties for the state. She knows all about the machines. I don't know anything about the machines. And all the other members don't know that much about the machines. But she does. And so if the council is wanting us to put on these elections, we've got to have somebody that knows something about it. You'd be in a hell of a shape if you had me to do it, because I wouldn't know how to set the machines up. I'm going to tell you that right now. So,
Yeah, I'm really confused though, because I understood she was hired to do the hand count, and it wasn't about the machines, it was about this hand count election that we're forced into.
you can hear anything.
I understood this was what came from the election commission meeting. My apologies. It was part of the public record, was that she was pushed
hired to do
through
the hand count?
to make sure
Well,
that
that is part of her job. I mean, she's given us lessons. We're going to go out to the precincts and watch the count. I'm going to South Coffeyville, another one's going to Welch, and another one's going to Anita. And we're going to be a watcher, just like the watchers there, and we're going to, and she's given us lessons what we're supposed to watch for. And then we'll come back in to the office and bring everything and tally it there. But, yeah, she's gonna work through that. That's part of it. Of course, we, you know, it's, like I say, I don't think we're gonna have any more elections. In fact, this one real quick, unless somebody dies, you know, then we'll have to have one. But,
So, Mr. Horton,
there's all possibilities, you know.
Yeah, I know. No.
is she a permanent hire?
When you do
Is she
that.
a contract? Is she here just short term? I've gotten all sorts of questions and from people, and I have no idea how to answer them, so I'm trying to get facts.
I might.
Hey, Mr. Horton, we may have speaker here clarify some of this.
Asked about calling a point of order because I think we're talking about an employment problem now. And
I think it's getting into
generally-
terror now.
Yeah.
I heard it was contract, so I didn't know it was, that's not a personnel
What
issue
you might do, Counselor Watts, is when we leave this meeting here, get with Mr. Horton and that attorney right there, and I bet they can answer your questions. But I want to get into some here that's privy to.
With regards to the personnel questions, that's a personnel matter that should be
Absolutely.
referred to HR.
Sure.
But I thought she was a contract, so she is an employee. That will help guide my discussion.
Yes.
Okay,
HR had to approve it.
okay.
It's a personnel issue. So.
Right.
It's a personnel issue.
Okay. Did you have a comment? Are
I
we
was
through
about
here?
to say that,
That's all, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay.
I was about to say that I have called the Election Commission women over here during my, I chair the next meeting, ENF at 3, and I have told them that they need to be here at 3 o'clock. You might want to place a call because Terrell falls under my committee and some of these questions fall under Terrell.
Okay, since you brought this up, I got something I think under chapter 2, section 11, Election Commission. It shall be an independent commission in the performance of a statutory authority, and in the performance of such authority shall not be subject to direction or of any other type of influence by the executive office or the Cherokee Nation Council.
Okay.
Now, I don't see how you can direct anything to it when we are an autonomous body and you say we have got to be there. I just don't understand how we, if we're autonomous and we work under our own commission, how one counselor can tell me that I must be at a meeting. I just don't think you can do that.
Can I answer?
You can answer all you want, I guess.
Okay, Terrell law, when we passed the new Terrell law, I just come out of a meeting with the Attorney General. It covers two things. It covers employment. It covers contracting. The fact that the commission is under boards and commissions in the Terrell law makes it that it's covered. It's regardless of whether it's your board and commission. It's regardless of whether it's a health board and commission, whether it's an employee appeals board and commission, whether it's the actual Terrell board or commission, whatever you want to call it. The council passed the law. I have just talked to the Attorney General. It falls under that. That's why. And the 3 employees you got, and including the 4th one you hired, according to the election law, they are called full-time employees, and in the election law, it states that they are subject to HR policy. HR policy states it will follow Terrell.
Are we full-time employees?
Not you.
Your staff.
Your staff, you're not.
Just be
That's
three,
the-
just
you-
be
no,
the
the
be the
it
3
states in the-
employees in the office would be as long as
And the 4th
full-time.
one, since they're a full-time employee.
So what are you saying?
You fall under Terrell. That's how we can ask you to come over here and make you follow Terrell law. The Terrell law applies to all commissions and boards. We had.
You just said full-time. You didn't,
Well, I'm explaining that it follows boards, the commissions, plus your full-time employees.
Madam
It
Speaker,
excludes.
you want to add to that? We're getting into some
I probably
personnel
need to.
issues here,
That's right.
and I'm going to finish this meeting here, and she could address that in executive finance. Yeah,
Just with
Counselor?
regard to the Terrell law, I understand the issues. I've been asked to research that by the commission. I'm going to do that. I don't have an opinion at this time, but I will research it and give the commission an opinion.
Okay. Speaker, do you want to add to that?
You might want to call Todd.
And
I talked to the AG.
I'm also asking our legal counsel to look at it and to look at what we can go into executive session for. It's very limited what we can go into executive session for, and I'm not sure it's for all employees, but just when we have a question about our employees.
Okay.
So I I have her looking at that.
Okay.
Okay, I'll finish my statement that I was going to say. My problem is when there's a position that's open at Cherokee Nation and it is not advertised, and the Terrell law states the first panel will be Cherokees, the second panel will be Native Americans, and then the third panel you can go outside. I've got a problem with it when there was not a Cherokee looked at. I am here because Cherokees voted for me, and I am here for the Cherokee person. There is 3 women over in that office that are Cherokees. They are very capable of applying for that job and doing that job. We denied them the right to do that job. And when you deny a Cherokee, I take it as an affront to me. I might have had a sister or a brother that wanted to apply for that job, and you denied them. So yes, when you're denying a Cherokee, I take it personal, and I will say something in this council. Where do I get my power? From the people, by a mandate. That is where I derive my power. That's all.
Okay. Anything else?
Just a comment.
Okay, we're going to cut this off here real quick because we can go on. If you want to visit with, Mr. Horton, then you can do it on your own. But I'm going to go back one more time briefly. Councilor Lay?
Thank you, sir, and I'll be brief. Your lawyer's a non-Indian, is that correct?
Do what now?
Your lawyer's a non-Indian, is that correct?
Yes.
How is a non-Indian lawyer going to research Taro law? I don't understand that. And what was the process? I guess we'll go this offline. I'd like to know what the process that you all went through for your new hire. But maybe we should do that offline. Thanks, sir.
Okay. Councilor Bezel?
Just a short comment, and it's for the Election Commission and everybody here, is there shouldn't be anybody that goes to those polls that leaves without casting a vote. Now, I know that happened at the precinct that I'm from. They weren't offered a challenge ballot, which everybody should be able to leave that precinct making some type of a vote, either for a candidate or a challenge ballot. So I want to make sure, Mr. Horton, that
They should have had a challenge ballot. Anybody can vote a challenge ballot.
they were not informed. The people that worked those polls did not inform those people. They said, you either got to vote for this candidate or that candidate. And they said, well, they're not in my district. So what they should have done is been able to do a challenge ballot, and they weren't offered that challenge ballot. But what I'm saying is nobody should leave a poll without casting a ballot.
No, anybody should vote a challenge ballot. I mean, everybody was informed.
Well, no,
that
they
worked.
weren't informed at the precinct.
Because we had our training meetings, and anybody, I don't care if you lived in South Alabama, you come up and vote a challenge ballot if you want to.
And I
We
was
look it up, and it's no good. It's no good.
I was informed by one of your commissioners that said, yeah, they had the training meeting, but the people that worked at those polls did not tell those people that you have a right to do a challenge ballot. So all I'm saying,
That was a miscommunication
yes,
incident.
all I'm saying is anybody that goes to those polls should not leave without casting a ballot.
That's true. Agree with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Mr. Horton, I commend you for taking on this responsibility. I know you're an avid hunter and a fisherman. I know you'd rather be doing that. I just want to commend you for staying with the tribe and taking on this
I
responsibility.
told the girls the other day, I said, there's lots of deer out there to shoot and a lot of fish to catch, and I'm up here catching hell.
Councilor Garvin?
Also, he's a good cook.
No, you got that on ice cream.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.
Carol's the one that likes the beans.
Okay. Yeah, she's a eater.
Thanks, Joe.
Yes. Tax Commission, Sharon Swepson.
I think you have my report, so I'll try to address any questions that you might have.
Councilor Thornton.
You're going to be here in ENF.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Watts.
Thank you, Councilman Byrd. Hi, Sharon. How are you doing today? Good. How is the implementation of the new car tag compact going, and what's been the impact on our Collinsville office?
We're getting there, and we haven't seen the impact yet because if everything goes through, which you will see later has been amended on the agenda, we've brought some law forward to be able to get everything in place. And once we do that, then we want to put it into place on November the 1st. and that's when you're going to see the impact hit. We do have 4 people at our Collinsville office now, so they're there and they're being trained and doing real well, so hopefully that will help. We have the parking lot open there, so we have 22 additional parking spaces up there, so hopefully that will help with some of the parking problems that we've had.
And people have been real excited about that. I know you did an initial news release, you've got it corrected on the website so that there's facts and information available to folks whenever they think about doing this. How else are we going to communicate that to folks?
I know that.
Because you're going to be impacted and we're going to be impacted.
Yes.
And then
We have worked with our operators. The phones are ringing off the hooks at our office, and we're trying to answer those questions. But I also know that I'm working with Ben Elder, I think is his name, with CNE, and they're going to get information out through their process of getting everything out for us through billboards and radio and things like that. So we're working with them to get something out.
And that'll be governmental in nature, not political in nature, I assume, right?
Yes, because
there's no face for the car tags?
No, it's just questions. To my understanding, it's just answering questions. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
good?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Councilor Garvin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sharon, has there been any change in these 2 dates, one for the 5 counties, one statewide?
No, sir.
Hadn't moved either way?
No, not right now. November 1st for the additional counties in
Possibility
jurisdiction.
could move up and possibility could move back, right?
The in jurisdiction, what we're trying to do is if it passes here, then of course it has to go to full council before we can implement that. And it's just easier to implement it at the beginning of a month, and that way we can actually judge the impact that it has. And so that's the reason we picked November 1st on that. As far as the July 1 date for the at-large compact, that basically we'll just have to see as we work with Oklahoma on getting implementation of the new rates and everything in our systems and making sure that all that works. So and that could possibly move up. It just depends on how quickly and how things work.
So the dates we would need to remember is November the 1st this year.
And July 1.
And July 1 next year.
2014. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good. Anybody else? Good report, Sharon. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Self-governance, Vicki Hamby. The report is before you. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? It's a good report.
Councilor White?
Thank you. Is your team working on the federal recognition consultation, or is that all in Courtney's workshop?
Well, we work together with government relations as far as pretty much any consultation along that line. But keep in mind that our shop works more with the policy and working with other tribes on policy issues, and then Courtney's group does more with the congressional action and moving those policy issues forward.
How is it progressing on the federal recognition consultation? Where are we at with it?
I'll have to double check, but I believe that we submitted comments, and we can provide that to you. I believe that that's been submitted.
I'd like a copy of it, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was my only question. Thank you, Vicki.
Good report.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thanks, Vicki. Appreciate you.
Gaming Commission, Jamie Hummingbird.
Good afternoon. I apologize, I'm not Jamie Hummingbird.
I could tell.
Tracy Asher. Jamie's actually in attendance at the Global Gaming Expo in Las Vegas. He's on his way back. He should have a director's report available to you.
Yes.
I'll try to field any questions that you may have about that, but he did want to make sure that we extended an invitation to the Tribal Council for our quarterly all-staff meeting that will be held tomorrow. We are actually having our 5th annual chili cook-off, and we are in need of judges. So if you guys we would be happy to have you guys there if you would like to attend. We're at the Tahlequah Armory, and I believe we'll have the contest and the dinner about 11 o'clock.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
I think we might just take you up on that. Okay, any questions or comments? Councilor Fishenhoff?
Yeah, next month, would you have Jamie here with his travel for the commission? And tell him I want an itemized statement, I want him ready to defend it, because for every penny he spends, it affects our dividend. And I noticed the last couple of years, it's gone from like, it's increased up to like 200,000 from 150, and $200,000 a year in travel,
Okay.
quite a bit.
All right, I'll make sure he's prepared with that.
Councilor Watts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, I have questions from employees. Has there been a recent change on background requirements, background check requirements, and that they must submit like their fingerprints and some medical records or something? Can you explain how we got there, whose authority, and what's going on?
Fingerprints has always been a requirement from the NIGC. That's for the FBI background check.
So there's no negotiation on fingerprints?
No negotiation there, and actually, there's no negotiation. The only new addition that I'm aware of is birth certificates are now required by the NIGC, and that's something recent. In fact, I had to resubmit my information. I'm actually an employee for almost 20 years.
So is there an audit being done right now that not older in age, but employees that have been with us for a while?
Yes, when that new requirement came down, we went and pulled all of our old records, and mine being one of them, and I've been with the commission for 14 years and in gaming for 20 years. Mine was one where I had not submitted my birth certificate, and I had to submit that.
One last question. So to clarify, the medical, I know that when I joined on the Will Rogers, or the CNE board, the Horse Racing Commission wanted medical, for example. What's the medical component? I guess there's a waiver now that people have to sign that they can get your medical records and look at your financials, personal financials for you and your spouse?
I'm not aware of that. Now, we do a credit check, and I'm not aware of what OHRC's requirements are. For ours, we do a credit check, and medical is excluded. So if you have over $10,000 in bad credit, that may reflect on your license ability, but we exclude bad credit related to medical expenses and for student loans. So that's excluded from that amount.
I guess what was brought to my attention was that there was a waiver for medical records so that they could actually look in your medical files.
That would, I believe, would be a violation of HIPAA.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out how to get back to this group of employees that are suddenly concerned.
Okay. If you could give us some more specifics, we'd be happy to look into that for you. But for our purposes, the only reason that we would ask about that would be related to your credit report.
Okay.
And again, we would want to make sure that we excluded those debts from when we're doing the credit analysis.
Okay, you've been very helpful and forewarned Jamie that I will be reaching out to him. So
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Okay.
Moving on to old business. Speaker, she wants to pull the
Well, she said that.
table or pull?
She wants to pull it for 1 month. AG's looking over it.
Okay. Do we need a motion on that?
No, you don't.
I think the sponsor just withdraws it if they
Yeah,
want.
it just
Okay.
withdraws.
All right. So in new business, we've already addressed item number 1, item number 2.
She wants it tabled for a month. They're working on it.
Okay. Need a motion to table?
Motion to table.
Second?
Number 2.
Second.
Yes.
We've been working with the ICW office and the AG's office. We're going to change a little bit of the language that's in the current proposed legislation.
Oh, yes.
So we need to table it for another.
Okay. Motion
Second.
table.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so we'll table it for another month. Okay, item number 3.
This is a resolution that sets the October 22nd, it sets October 22nd of 2013 for the swearing in of the new District 11 council member if there's no recount, no runoff, and no challenges. And if a runoff or a recount or challenges occur, in an alternative date of November 13th of 2013, if there is a runoff and if there's no recount or challenges. And it's a resolution, and I move for its approval.
Okay, you have the resolution before you, correct? Does everyone have
It's the one
that?
in-
Okay,
It's not the one in the book.
it's not the one in the book. You have this as a hand. Everyone have that?
And I passed them out so you have a handout. The only change is removing an and.
I get the second.
Point of order.
Second.
I need a
Second.
second.
Got the
So-
motion?
She had the motion, I seconded it.
Okay,
Now she can talk.
okay.
We just took an and out and added a comma.
What part did you take that out?
The be it resolved.
Okay.
So we just, Tyne and I reviewed that last night, and she said, I think we need to take that, there's two ands in there, so, Shelley and I corrected it, add the comma, so that's the only changes, but that's the version that you're voting on that's outside the council book, just so you know.
Got a motion second? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I think that's it.
Motion to adjourn.
Any announcements? I've got an act here we're gonna
The
review here.
motor vehicles, the agenda's on that. Move
Okay.
to approve.
Second.
We got a motion and a second over there, discussion?
Can Sharon explain the changes that are coming about?
We have someone already.
Sarah's here.
Sarah? She's not Sharon, but she.
Sharon's welcome to. I would be happy to explain any changes she wishes.
You're not gonna get off that easy, Sarah.
I thought the report went awfully smoothly. The best place to look if you're looking for changes, and ordinarily I know it's much easier to review a red line draft where you can see the changes that have been made. I would like to have done this in this case, but reviewing all of the tag compact amendments that had occurred in the past, it really had become, it was a mess. I mean, it was just, there are sections where there had been new sections added, sections that had previously been repealed had been brought back without any explanation. So it was difficult to find some way to fix all of the problems with the legislation. So it seemed simpler and easier to just repeal all the previous legislation and bring it forward into one new act and try to clean that up. The best place to look for the new information is on page 6 of the act, where it talks about revenue sharing under section 105. And there on section A, it talks about allocations of revenue collected outside the Cherokee Nation Compact jurisdiction. And the term Cherokee Nation Compact jurisdiction is now a defined term, and it includes all of the 14 counties and all of Wagoner, Muskogee, Mays, Rogers, and Tulsa County. And so, that's what, when you see that phrase, that's what that always means in the motor vehicle tag compact. And so you can read that section, which basically falls along with the compact that you've already approved. And then under section B, that's allocations of revenues collected inside that jurisdiction. And it stays the same way that it's been. All I did was sort of, again, there were some wording issues. Sometimes different words were used in different places. So I've just cleaned that language up to the best of my ability and to make it consistent with the compact. So those were the major changes. There are a few other changes that were made to definitions that you probably aren't, like all-terrain vehicle had been defined in 2 different ways in 2 different acts. So we picked one and went with that. And with the repealing, it should fix those previous errors to the code. So if that helps at all, that's what we're trying to do with this.
Sure.
Counselor Wilkinson.
I'd like to make a request to vote acclamation. This is Zach.
Got another comment by Counselor Baker.
Oh, I have a question, or a comment actually. On page 7, under B3, so this means that we will be contributing to the building of roads outside the jurisdictional area of the Cherokee Nation.
It will be within the Cherokee Nation Compact jurisdiction, which will include
Areas
the new,
outside the Cherokee.
right. Anytime you see that term, Cherokee Nation Compact jurisdiction, it's going to mean all this extended area, all of Tulsa, Muskogee,
I just wanted
Wagner.
people to be aware that we are.
Yes, we are going to be
Outside
extending
our
that to
nation.
the rest of the compact jurisdiction.
Counselor Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Baker. Because I've heard this, and so we're going to be road building outside the 14 county, or the traditional Cherokee Nation jurisdiction.
Yes, sir.
I can't get enough roads built up in my country now.
Right.
So,
Well, we'll have-
somebody explain this one to me.
Well, we're going to be bringing in additional revenue that we haven't been bringing in before because people will be registering their cars in Tulsa County, Wagner County, and those are large populations of Cherokees, and they will bring their revenue into the pot. So there's going to be more money there to do construction than there was previously. I'm not ever going to say we're going to meet everybody's needs, but we're going to also be bringing in additional revenue as we take on the additional burden of increasing the amount of roads that are being built.
outside the Cherokee Nation jurisdiction?
Outside the traditional 14-county treaty boundaries.
I'm gonna have to oppose this because I can't get roads built up in my country now. And I didn't know that this was gonna be in this language. And it's, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome. Counselor Watts?
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Baker, because I missed this. So it's not that I'm opposed to it. I don't know what to think now, because how will this actually be implemented? I mean, how is this going to impact the roads money that we already have? How, because I'm one of those counties, you know, I'm part of those communities.
Right.
So there's a corner of Rogers County that's impacted, that's Creek Nation. There's a good portion of Tulsa County. This really changes dynamics in Tulsa. Tulsa County could quickly consume rural monies. How is this implemented? What happens? I mean, do we already have rules adopted? How are we going to do? I mean, how does this formula? Is there expectations on behalf of the state that the formula is equal distributions to these portions? Where are we at with this? Because this is a huge game changer, so to speak, that it could really impact our rural communities.
Well, the rules for how this is done would be created by the tax commission. They have the rules, they create the rules on how these are allocated. And so if there are issues with how, I would assume that the tax commission would continue, if there were issues about where that money should go or how that formula, and I won't pretend that I understand the formula, that's the tax commission's formula on how that's done.
My understanding is that like the 38% that comes off the gross top, and that's allocated based on the number of JOM students registered in those schools. All of the schools in those additional extended counties will be included in that apportionment.
And I think that part was clear.
Okay. The roads money comes in, and my understanding is we take a lump sum and it's placed in the budget, and then the council is the one that appropriates those dollars through the roads department.
Okay.
Now, that's my understanding. Is that not the way? I don't have Lacey here to answer my question, because we don't tell them where to appropriate that money to. So, that is correct. Okay, that's
May I continue?
Sure.
So, and if the body's comfortable or the chair's comfortable, I'd like a dialogue, because I don't know how else to straighten this out. So.
If we can straighten it out here,
Yeah, so
we may not, but we'll try.
I
Speaker, do
understood-
you want to add something to that?
I
If you would
understood
yield?
I'm sensing we have a problem here.
We have a huge problem, I think.
Yes.
Is this 20% part of the compact with the state on how we allocate the money?
Yes, that's the way that, I mean, it didn't change from the previous compact. This is the exact same language.
No, that 20%, it has to be a change.
The 20%, it's 20% goes to roads and bridges, and then law enforcement.
Well, but the wording is that it goes to all of the Cherokee Nation compact jurisdiction. Is that a change from before?
That's not, I mean, the wording was.
Definition of the compact jurisdictions changed.
Just the definition has changed.
Okay, so what you're saying is the council could choose to put all that 20% within a 15 county or 14 county jurisdiction area. We don't have to put any of the 20% outside. Because we allocate it.
Right, it's my understanding that it is the council's discretion as to where that 20% of the motor vehicle money is spent.
I would need to pull the compact before I could feel comfortable answering that.
Well, we really need that answer.
if no offense, Speaker, but I'd like to take the floor back for a moment. So I need to know, if I make a motion to strike compact out of Cherokee Nation compact jurisdiction, and we make it Cherokee Nation jurisdiction, am I then forcing us, assuming this body supports it, into a violation of the compact? I understood the education part, but I did not understand the roads part, and this creates a huge issue. We were already doing, really, many of the schools, I think. There was already a comfort zone. I understood how that worked. I do not understand how this works if I vote for this yes or no today. Sorry, Sarah, I know that you've done a lot of work, a lot of people have, but I missed this, so.
Well, and I didn't realize that it was a problem, so I'm glad that you brought it up, because I didn't realize that this was an issue, because I don't allocate the allocation side of it is separate from the part of it that I do. what you would be doing is taking, because you're going to be getting a lot more revenue under this than what you received before, because you're including areas. So if you buy a tag in Tulsa County and you take this money and you direct it only to the 14 counties, you're taking money from a Tulsa County citizen, and that money is not going back to Tulsa County. It's staying in the 14 counties.
Right.
I'm not saying that you can't do that, but I'm going to have to check the compact, because I don't, off the top of my head, remember what the wording of that language was.
You're not telling me anything new. I live in Rogers and Tulsa County areas, so we already are taxation without representation in terms of Cherokee Nation, because we don't live in.
Right.
this
You're
area.
asking me what you can do, and I'm saying I'll have to look at the compact to tell you if that would be a violation or not.
It appears to me, Sarah, that there's still some very unclear questions here. And there's some definitions that have changed. So if the wishes of the body, I don't think we're real clear on it yet.
I would
Speaker?
make before I make this motion, is there any absolute necessary it's got to be passed today?
All I know is that if this is not passed and makes it through full council by November 1st, I cannot implement it.
Okay, so we could call a special meeting if we get this wording hashed out at a later time.
Absolutely.
I would make a motion then that we table this, give them an opportunity to check this out. This is critical to our roads program. In my mind, I don't believe we're changing the wording. What we did was we expanded the jurisdiction. I believe this body still holds the power to divide up that money within our original jurisdictional area if we desire to do so. But in abundance of caution, I think we need to let the AG's office and the tax people check that out. I think that we can still meet the November 1st deadline, and with that, I make a motion to table.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Discussion? Comment?
It's nothing. Can't discuss tabling.
That's right.
Okay, got a motion.
Somebody's got to do better on their facts and figures. This is not going to fly, okay? Whoever wrote this up needs to go back to work.
Okay. Let me amend my motion. This is the last agenda item that we have. Can we recess the meeting till the noon, 12 o'clock of our tribal council meeting date, which would be our October 14th. Instead of doing a motion table, I make a motion to recess. I believe that will get us to October 13th. You all can resolve this wording, then we'll come back and look at it again on that council day.
And still be able to pass it on.
And still be able to take it into council if you're satisfied with the wording.
I've got a request from you, and that's fine, but I want to see this before we but flop it down on the table in front of me and expect me to vote on it in just a couple of minutes is ridiculous. Don't do that to us anymore.
Just try to get it in our hands before October 14th, I think, if you can, ASAP.
I will get it to you as quickly as I possibly can.
Okay, give us time to review.
And I would make that my motion is that we just recess
Okay.
on this issue.
Motion to recess, second?
Jody, second.
Okay.
Okay.
Comment?
Yes. You said until noon on the day of the council, but noon is normally the education
No,
committee. Have we changed that?
He's asked to move that to 3 o'clock.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. All minds clear? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed, ayes have it. We'll recess until October 14th. So try to get that in our hands as soon as possible.
I certainly will.
Okay. Okay. This committee is recessed till October 14th. We are recessed.